Okay, tonight is the 11th of Shvat, and it is the anniversary of the day of the Bo Hashem V'Zarach Hashemesh. The Torah says the sun sets, the sun rises, until the sun sets of the previous generation, the sun of the next generation already rises. So this is both the day of the anniversary of the passing of the previous Rebbe, and it's tonight is the anniversary of the leadership of when the Rebbe became leader of the Jewish people. And I wanted to share a story which I think is emblematic of the Rebbe's leadership, and actually began shortly after the Rebbe assumed leadership of Chabad. This was back in 1951. The Rabbi Yehuda Shachat was living in Holland with his children, and he felt that there was no future for Jewish education in Holland, and so he took his family to Toronto. And because of his exceptional gifts of scholarship and other gifts that he has, he was immediately put in a position of leadership in the community. And shortly after they arrived, there was a Chabad family whose daughter had a problem in food poisoning. And the family, of course, sought the Rebbe's blessing. And the Rebbe said that they should make a joyous Kiddush. They should make a celebration on Shabbos, make a Kiddush. And that's what they did. And the rest of the story you can guess. Baruch Hashem, she recuperated, she became better. But a month later, Rabbi Yehuda Shachat al Shalom was a little surprised of this event. Celebrate when your daughter is so sick. But he saw also that the Rebbe's blessing miraculously was fulfilled. And so a month later, when tragedy struck in his own family on November 22nd, 1951, they lived in a home where there was very modest home, very primitive. I think it was a home the Jewish community was planning to use it for some purpose, and at the time they lived there, it was even the basic amenities weren't there. Like, for example, they had no washing machine, they didn't have a telephone, and so Mrs. Shachat would boil hot water and bring it up the stairs, and that's how she would wash the clothing of the family. So one day, their 1-year-old Amina, she walks up the stairs. She sees her daughter submerged in the boiling hot water. She immediately picks up her daughter, wraps her, and the skin is literally peeling off of her. And she rushes to a children's hospital. She doesn't really speak English, and they tried to do whatever they could do, but the doctors immediately said that this child, unfortunately, is going to die. They told Rabbi Shachat's oldest daughter, please tell your family, tell your parents that their daughter, your sister, is not going to survive. She didn't want to say that message to her parents. So instead, she said, the doctors say that Amina is very sick, and they're doing their best. That's what the doctors said. So Rabbi Shachat's brother-in-law was the Rebbe's chief secretary, Rabbi Chadikov, and so he wasn't really from a Chabad family, but he was related to the Rebbe's chief secretary, and he'd just seen the Rebbe's blessing to another member of the community. So he called up his brother-in-law and asked him to ask the Rebbe for a blessing. So the Rebbe responded the same instruction. They should make a joyous Kiddush. And the Rebbe said that the mother of Amina, Mrs. Shachat, she should participate in the Kiddush. And the whole community in Toronto, men and women and children, all got together with heart and soul to be a part of this celebration. And it was really something remarkable. It was everyone got together with joy, with happiness, to bring the blessing of Hashem down. And it's very in sync with the okay. So they had this great celebration, and after Shabbos, Baruch Hashem, their daughter is still alive, despite the doctor's grim predictions. Miraculously, their daughter is still alive, and there's even a sign of slight recuperation, but she wasn't really at all out of danger. And her birthday is on December 1st. So the next Sunday, the family was planning to go to she was 1 year old, and they were planning on the Sunday to go to the hospital on her birthday and to bring her some small gifts, just to, the family get together and to show her that there was. And so, unfortunately, though, that the following Shabbos, after the Kiddush, the following Shabbos, the representatives of the hospital arrived at the home. They couldn't contact them on the phone because they didn't have a phone. And they told them they should come right away because their daughter is dying. So again, Rabbi Shachat calls the Rebbe, the Rebbe's secretary, and according to some members of the family, the Rebbe himself got on the phone. And the Rebbe said to Rabbi Shachat, you are a rabbi in the city, and the role of a rabbi is to make sure that the Jewish education is the way it's meant to be, is to make sure that the level of kosher is observed, that people are observing kashrus. So you do what Hashem wants you to do, and Hashem will do what He needs to do. In other words, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. Just focus on your mission. Everything will be all fine. Everything will be fine. And this was at a time that the family didn't really know the gravity of the situation. It wasn't just that whether her life was in danger or not. It was also that there was a lot of damage internally. The doctors were really worried about her kidneys and other organs that were damaged severely, Rahman al-Islam, by the burn. So, but that's what the Rebbe said, and so he trusted in the Rebbe's words, and miraculously, one miracle after another, she started to recuperate, started to get better, and she's still in the hospital, but starting to improve. But a few weeks later, she suddenly develops this very high fever. She has a fever of 106. And again, he calls the Rebbe, what is this? What are we supposed to do? And the Rebbe said, there's a mistake in the treatment that she has been given in the hospital. Go to the hospital, make a tumul, and they'll discover that there's indeed there's some issue with the with the kind of medicine that they're giving her. I remember hearing that the issue was with the kind of the different kinds of burns, and they were giving they're giving the wrong medicine for her, but whatever it was, he didn't speak English that well, but he made this tumult in the hospital, and of course it's like it's the last thing you want to do. You're going to a hospital and where everyone's knows that you're just a primitive person who doesn't know about medicine. You're trying to say there's a mistake. It's a very not easy thing to do, but he trusted the Rebbe's words and he went in the hospital. He made a tumult, and indeed they discovered the mistake that the Rebbe had seen with divine inspiration. And Baruch Hashem, she recuperated. At one point, she stayed in the hospital from November 22nd, when she had the burn, until March. And she had to relearn how to sit and how to stand and how to everything she had to relearn. And even when she came home, she had these deep open wounds. So there was a lot of concern about her future, and the Rebbe sent her a golden ruble and said to her that on the day of her wedding, she should give the value of this ruble to charity. So she became engaged to Rabbi Yitzchak Newman, Rebbe's emissary to Long Beach, California. And Rabbi Newman, he knew about the Rebbe's blessings, but he still was wondering, will she be able to have children? He asked the Rebbe if this is something to be concerned about. And the Rebbe said there's nothing to be concerned about there. And Baruch Hashem, the family went on to have, Baruch Hashem, 16 children. And one of them is right in our neighborhood, the Rebbe's emissary to Beverlywood, Rabbi Dov Newman. And so there's a very emblematic of the Rebbe's words when he became the leader of Chabad and leader of the Jewish people. His first discourse was about the theme Bais Bezalel, how the world is a garden, the world is a beautiful place. Everyone has a mission to do, and instead of, like in this story, instead of looking at the dire predictions of the doctors, the Rebbe encouraged them to just go forward, not to be concerned, and Hashem will help, and to trust in Hashem, and that's also the Rebbe's words. Right after the Holocaust, 6 years after the Holocaust, that was first addressed to the Jewish people. The world is a garden, and Mashiach is going to come and rebuild. And those words, really, if you think about it, they really shifted the Jewish world from the Shiva, from the mourning period of the Holocaust, to a new beginning. I want to share with you a few more stories in sync with this theme. When we think about the leadership of the Rebbe, and we think about the global impact and the 5,000 Chabad centers, it's easy to lose sight of the personal impact that the Rebbe has in each individual, not just as a leader of the Jewish people as a whole, but as the Rebbe said, the true sign of a Jewish leader is not that he's concerned with Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, but he's concerned with the Rebbe Yisrael, with every individual. So I just heard the story this Shabbos from a yeshiva student, Noam, who's visiting here, helping community, and he heard the story from Rabbi Yitzchak Arevich from Middle Emek when the story happened to him. The Rebbe sent him to Eretz Yisrael among a group of families that the Rebbe sent to strengthen the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael in 1975, Tash Lamed Vav, 1976. There was in Eretz Yisrael at that time the rabbi of the Kotel, who was also the head of the yeshiva, the Kabbalists, and his name was Yehuda Getz. The Rebbe sent a letter, and the Rebbe asked these yeshiva students to bring a letter to this rabbi and to try to make sure to bring the letter to him before midnight. Very unusual words. Bring the letter, make sure it arrives before midnight. So you can imagine, as faithful chassidim, they took this really deeply to heart. Rabbi Gorevich and a friend of his went and they ran as fast as they could to the home of Rabbi Yehuda Getz. They come to his home. The home is dark. Everyone gone to sleep. They start banging and banging and banging on the door. And eventually, Rabbi Yehuda Getz, his wife, opens the door. What's going on? We have a letter for your husband, and we would like to give it to him. A letter for my husband? Now, middle of the night? I mean, give it to him tomorrow. No, we need to give it to him right now. Please tell him it's the real letter from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and we need to give it to him right now. Rabbi Getz was in his pajamas. He heard it was a letter. His wife told him it was a letter. There was from this rabbi in New York, out of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He immediately goes down the stairs, and in his pajamas, he takes the letter, he reads the letter, and he tells the voice, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you brought this letter now to me before midnight. Till today, no one knows why this letter had to arrive before midnight, except for Rabbi Getz. But those are the Rebbe's instructions. This person had to have this letter before midnight for reasons known to the Rebbe and to Rabbi Getz. But it was something that was needed, and to this by this individual, personally, and it was seen, and it was heard, and it was known, and it was cared for. Just gives us an insight of what it means, of what a Jewish leader is. And on that note, tell you two more stories. There's an emissary of the Rebbe in a city called Bryansk. His name is Rabbi Mendel Zaklis, and his in-laws live in Har Nov in Jerusalem. Rabbi Zaklis visited the Rebbe in 1991. The Rebbe given him as a child $4. Of course, it's very precious to him, these dollars from the Rebbe. And he kept them in the cupboard of his in-laws, a safe place there. And he didn't tell anyone about it. He put it in an envelope in this cupboard. And he visited a year after he arrived in Bryansk. He visited his in-laws, and he opened the cupboard. In the cupboard, the whole cupboard was cleaned out. And so, among the things that were cleaned out was this envelope of his dollars that he had from the Rebbe, and it made him very distraught. And no one knew what happened to it. The cupboard was all cleaned out, so that was also thrown out. And so this happened a while before. So he, in his mission over there in Bryansk, the Chabad emissaries in that whole region of Russia, far off cities in Russia, they have this custom that they make a raffle every month, and the winner of the raffle goes on a trip to New York to be in the Ohel. to be by the Rebbe. And so this Rabbi Zaklis, he was thinking, I really would like to go on this trip. I really would like to be part of this. Really like to win. I want to be by the Rebbe because many other things were happening besides losing the dollars. Many other things were happening, and he just felt like it was the time to go. And he won the raffle. He won the raffle on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and he came to the Ohel and he wrote the Rebbe a long letter, and he came back to where the place the Rebbe sent him, Bryansk, the next day. That Friday, he's sitting in his office and just sitting about the whole whirlwind of his trip and what he was concerned about. And he gets a phone call from his mother-in-law. The mother-in-law says, "You won't believe this, Mendy. We found your dollars. We found the envelope." What happened was, we don't really know what happened, but this is the end of the story. The street cleaner found an envelope with the dollars in it, and he called me up. He saw their name on the envelope, and he called me up and said, we found this envelope. How come the street cleaner noticed it and thought to call and thought it was valuable? And how come we found it now after such a long time for looking for these dollars? We don't know. We do know is that Rabbi Zaklis asked the Rebbe to give him a sign that the Rebbe was with him in his mission after having all these challenges and losing the dollars that he got from the Rebbe. And right after he asked him for a blessing for the sign, all of a sudden these dollars are discovered. Makes you think about this. Makes you think more about this connection that every Jew has, and how it even is so vibrant and so real today as well. On that note, I'll tell you two more stories. There's a Jew named Benny Waxberger. You may have heard of Malchut Waxberger. That's a printing company in Israel. They make all these Birkonim, these Berachas Hamazon cards. They make the little cards to say the after blessings and other things that they're famous for. So time the story took place about 20 years ago. Benny was living in Postville in Iowa. At that time, Rabbi Shomar Cherubashkin was living there and running the meat company. And Benny was he was from Ser Divishnitz Chassidim. He wasn't a Chabad Chassid, but he was a shochet. He served as a shochet for the Cherubashkin company. And it's a very small community at that time, especially. And they really, he and his wife really wanted to have children. It's very, very, very small, warm, close in the community. But being by yourself without children and year after year not having children was very difficult for her. And his wife really wanted to move to Israel. They had heard about different fertility experts in Israel. And so they wanted to move to Israel. And he told his wife, "Listen, we can't leave to Israel now." It was before Tishrei, the busiest season for a shochet, someone who slaughters animals, is in Tishrei. And Rabbi Benny Waxberger, he is a slaughterer of both turkeys and chickens and cows and whatever Rabashkins has. He does all the shchita. And he was one of the shochem. He didn't want to do this to Rabbi Rabashkin and make him lose one shochet the busy season of the year. He told his wife, "We'll go right after Tishrei, after the holiday season. We will go to New York. We'll go to this fertility expert." And they really were thinking also about moving to Israel, which they eventually did. Anyways, it's Simchas Torah. There's about 25 people in the shul, and they're dancing, and they're singing, and they're celebrating. A small community. And at one point, Benny's outside on the porch, in the front porch of the shul, and Shalom Mordechai Rabashkins also walks out for a break from the dancing, and Shalom Mordechai notices that Benny's not feeling good. I think he's unhappy. So what's going on? Benny tells him, "My wife and I, children, we were planning to go to the specialist in Israel." So Shalom Mordechai says, "Why are you going to the specialist in Israel? Why don't you go to the greatest specialist in New York?" Meaning, why don't you go to the Ohel and ask them for a bracha? It's hard for us to go to the Ohel now to get tickets. Shalom Mordechai says, "Listen, my birthday is on the 28th of Tishrei. I'm going to New York. I want you to come with me. I'm going to bring you with me to New York. You don't have to worry about anything. Just come with me, and we'll go to the greatest specialist. You don't need to go to Israel." Okay. Shalom Mordechai is a man of incredible trust in Hashem, but Benny was thinking, okay, he was saying this is Simchas Torah. He drank something, but nothing. He wasn't expecting anything. A few days after Simchas Torah, Benny is at home. He's just sitting down, relaxing after a full day of work, hard day of work, slaughtering all these animals, and he hears this beeping outside. Shalom Mordechai is outside. It's like, we're late for the flight. Guys, come quickly in the car. He didn't let them pack their bags. He says, just come right now. And they came right into the car as they were, without taking anything at all. And they went straight to the airport, and their Shalom Mordechai rented a car, and they went straight to the OL. 2 o'clock in the morning, they're in the OL. Those who are not familiar, it's customary when visiting the OL to remove your shoes, and they have these slippers they give everyone. But they weren't so comfortable wearing someone else's slippers. It was very cold season. And they're standing there barefoot in the OL. And Mrs. Waxberger is like, I'm leaving. I don't stay here for one more minute. And her husband says, no, let's at least give the Rebbe our names. We came so far. This man is so kind to us to bring us here. Let's just stay here for a minute and give the Rebbe our names. But they just switched the mood. And they just stayed there. And they daven. And they poured their hearts out. And they stayed there for a very long time. They came out of the OL. They were very impressed with the whole scene at the OL with the video of the Rebbe that plays there, and the Shalom Mordechai being so welcoming and helping them. Anyways, he takes them back to the airport. They go straight back to Postville. And when he drops them off at their home, he says, "Are you guys still planning to go to that specialist in Israel?" And they're like, "Well, we made plans. We're not going to cancel our plans. We believe Hashem heard our prayers. We believe that the blessing of the Rebbe is going to happen, but we have a plan already. We have an appointment. It's hard to get an appointment with the specialist. We're not going to cancel the appointment." Okay. A week or two later, they're in Israel, in the specialist's office. Very impatiently, the doctor comes out after doing a few tests. He says, "Why are you guys here? Don't you know that you're pregnant?" And they started to cry. Started to cry and cry. They told him, the doctor, what happened. Shalom Mordechai went to the Rebbe. And although they're visions of chassidim, in the years that they were waiting to have children, Mrs. Waxberger had made many promises of many different people that she was going to name one of her children after. So she told Shalom Mordechai, "I'm planning to name one of my children after the Rebbe, but I have these promises." And Baruch Hashem, her sixth child, Baruch Hashem, they're blessed with 6 children. The youngest child is their 6th child, and they named him Menachem Mendel. And he says, this Benny Waxberger is down in Israel. He says, I may be asking if I'm a Chabad chassid or a Servicious chassid. I'm a Servicious chassid, but I'm definitely a chassid of the Rebbe. And my son is very proud of his name, Menachem Mendel, from the Lubavitch Rebbe. One more story. This story, I think, highlights, there's a feature story for tonight. I think this story highlights the unique bond of a chassid and a Rebbe, and that's in every single Jew, and how our approach and our faith is what makes us a vessel for the Rebbe's blessings. It makes us open to receive the blessings that the Rebbe can give us when we believe in them and we're open to them. Changes things. I don't understand this story. I don't think this is a story that is relevant to everyone, but it's a story on the lesson. I'm going to share it. So, Rabbi, in the 7th of Cheshvan, in 2012, Ziv Shilon, who is in part of the Givati Brigade, he was with a group of other soldiers, and they saw this package that was suspicious, and he went. I think it was a lieutenant. He went to detonate this package, but in the process, unfortunately, the package exploded, and he immediately lost his left arm completely, and his right arm was also out of commission as a result of this explosion. He immediately was airlifted to Tel Aviv Hospital, Tel HaShomer, and they tried to do many different procedures to save his right arm. They gave him a prosthetic left arm, but he refused to amputate the right arm. They wanted to amputate it because since he was not feeling any movement in his right arm, it's dangerous just to have that as a part of the body when it's not being used, when it's not alive. And so the doctor said, you have to amputate it. He didn't want to amputate it. So there's a rabbi in Israel who runs the Chabad activities to help those who are who have been hurt through terror. So the rabbi's name is Rabbi Kutner, and he arranges every so often a trip I think he calls it a trip of a lifetime. He takes terror victims, and he brings them to New York for a fun experience, fun materially, fun spiritually, something to rejuvenate them. He's planning this trip. He knew the situation with Ziv, and he's planning to bring, and he told Ziv about the trip. He asked him if he wants to come. Ziv said this would be the perfect distraction. I have to make all these decisions about my arm and amputating, not amputating. I don't want to amputate my arm, but I want to break from all this. I want to go with you. They go to New York. They go touring. They go all over. And the highlight of the trip, the spiritual part of the trip, is Friday and Shabbos. And Friday they went to the Ohel. Before going to the Ohel, Rabbi Kutner explained to them what it means to visit the Rebbe in the Ohel, and how you have to make yourself a vessel for the Rebbe's blessings, and picture yourself being with the Rebbe and the Rebbe listening to you. We're going to a live Rebbe who hears you, and who is the Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moses of our time, and saying this message to these terror victims whose hearts are wide open with faith in Hashem after what they've been through. Made a real impression on them. And among other things, Rabbi Kutner has this custom that when everyone, he brings each of them into the Rebbe's Ohel individually, and he reads with them their chapter of Tehillim. The Baal Shem Tov instituted that everyone should say the chapter of Tehillim associated with their age. So when you're just born, you're going to your first year of life. When you're 10 years old, going to 11th year of life. So this man, Ziv, he goes into the Ohel, and he's very he's very upset after going to the Ohel. He's in there. They go back to the bus, and the bus is taking them to Manhattan for Shabbat. And he tells Rabbi Kutner, "I'm very upset. Why am I upset?" See, when he went to the Ohel, he read his chapter of Tehillim, but then he realized that he's a year older than what he thought he was. He thought because his birthday was just before, and his birthday was just before, so he didn't realize he's saying the wrong age of Tehillim. So he said one age of Tehillim. He said chapter 25. Then he realized he's supposed to say chapter 26 because he just turned a year older. He turned 25 from 24. He stayed chapter 26, not chapter 25. You're supposed to say one above your age. So he read the wrong one. So he read the second one, and he told Rabbi Kutner, "I decided to myself that if there is the word hand is in this chapter of Tehillim that I'm reading, I'm taking this as a sign. Don't try this at home, folks. This is what he decided to do. I'm taking this as a sign that I'm going to keep my hand. If it says it 3 times the word hand in the chapter of Tehillim, I know I have a blessing to keep my hand." That's what he decided. But then I saw it was the wrong chapter. First I was very excited because it mentions the word hand 3 times, even says the word the right hand in this chapter. And then we have to switch to the next year, and there was that chapter doesn't mention the word hand at all. Rabbi Kutner said to him, "1 second, when is your Jewish birthday?" And he figured out the Jewish birthday wasn't until Tuesday, and so he really said the right chapter of Tehillim, and he took this as a sign that he does not need any operation. And Baruch Hashem, miraculously, he recovered without any operation. I forgot to say what happened. What happened was they went on this excursion on Tuesday. He felt a tingling in his hand and his arm after such a long time, and he told the doctors about it. Doctors were shocked. They thought that they'd have to amputate it. It's threatening his life, but they felt this tingling, and they knew this was something significant. They did an operation, and Baruch Hashem, by Hanukkah, he was able to light the menorah with his right hand. That's a story. And Hashem should help us all that we should add in more light. Bais Bezalel should realize that we're living in the garden of Hashem, and we're going to see Bais Bezalel, as the Rebbe said in his very first discourse, we are the 7th generation from the generation of the Alter Rebbe, and just like Moshe Rabbeinu was the 7th generation from Abraham, the Talmud says all 7th are beloved, and our generation is going to witness the return of Hashem's manifest presence in this world. We're going to see how the whole world is a garden of Hashem, and Hashem is manifest in this world. And meanwhile, until that moment, if Chas Hashem Mashiach delays, tonight, when we're meant to connect with and embrace the Rebbe's mission for each of us, to bring, to feel good, to feel happy, be part of it, making the world a garden for Hashem. We should see this happen with Karav Mamish tonight. Go back to Shalayim, Yira Kodesh, and Hara Kodesh, Beis Hamikdash Hashish, Meshulash, Karav Mamish. A Freilich in Elf Shvat.